It all starts in a hushed-up courtroom, where the atmosphere weighs more than stone. The walls are said to be holding secrets, and each tick of the clock cuts through the tension like a knife. At the center of the scene sits Robyn Brown, her hands shaking, her eyes flitting nervously between her attorney and the judge. In the other room, Christine Brown sits tall, her face stern but her chest thudding with racing heart. The case that has rocked the sister wives' household to its foundation is set to get to its peak. And the shocking truth, it isn't just about money. It's about betrayal, hidden deals, and the unraveling of trust that once bound this unusual family together. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on a courtroom drama that could destroy everything Cody Brown and his wives built. What happens when loyalty becomes suspicion, and family is the battlefield? That's what everyone in this courtroom is quietly wondering. And at the end of this trial, one woman will leave with a legal win worth $750,000, while another will lose a reputation torn beyond recognition. But what you're going to hear is greater than a lawsuit. It's a tale of power, manipulation, and survival within one of America's most well-known polygamous families. 2 minutes into this narrative, let's commit together. Because what happens next could change the way you look at the Browns forever. The case began quietly, softly, almost like a whisper. Christine, the devoted third wife who is now separated and set on regaining her independence, found evidence of financial misdoings linked to Robyn. Initially, it seemed to be an honest error on paper. However, the more Christine investigated, the more she found left her gasping for air: fund transfers, secret accounts, and papers telling a tale very different from what Robyn had been claiming in public. To the rest of the world, Robyn always portrayed herself as the peacemaker, the quiet wife who craved tranquility in the family. But under the harsh light of the courtroom, Christine's attorneys started to introduce evidence that painted Robyn as much more than a peacemaker, more like a manipulator. And here's the surprising twist: Cody himself could have been the victim in this game of secrecy. Now here is where you must listen very carefully, because it is at this point that the trial ceased to be about numbers alone. Witnesses stepped forward, some relatives, some old acquaintances, each with his or her own tale of promises unfulfilled, money transferred, and talk that foreshadowed a scheme way bigger than anyone had anticipated. Christine's side colorfully portrayed Robyn as the ringmaster of a money betrayal, one that took everything from Christine that was rightfully hers. But Robyn's attorneys countered, claiming Christine was a scorned woman who wanted to besmirch her sister wife's reputation once she left the plural marriage. It was no longer just about money, it was about truth or lies, victim or villain. Mid-hook, and here's my question to you. If you were a juror in that courtroom, whose cause would you support? Robyn, crying out her innocence, or Christine, seeking justice for decades of... The judge never looked away from Robyn as evidence mounted. Each new piece of evidence was like a brick in a wall, constructing a case that Robyn couldn't just scale. Christine's voice broke when she testified, recounting years of feeling silenced and disbelieved, then finding out later that trust wasn't merely broken, it was manipulated. And all the while, Cody sat rigidly in the gallery, his expression impassive. Was he defending Robyn, his sole lawful wife, or was he silently grappling with the reality that the very foundation of his clan had been erected on shaky falsehoods? It was not merely a battle of law, it was a struggle for forgiveness, vengeance, and validation. 4 minutes in, and here's the reality you need to know. Family drama doesn't come any more real than this. Christine's attorneys produced a smoking gun, a series of recordings, purportedly capturing the conversations in which financial arrangements were being made in secret. The courtroom was silent as the judge leaned forward, his face tightening. Robyn went pale. Christine's hand trembled as she listened, vindicated but shaken by the brunt of reliving it all. The tapes created a clear image of Robyn promising money, then siphoning assets into accounts Christine never had control over. The betrayal wasn't personal, it was financial, legal, and heart-wrenching. And the people watching in that courtroom knew, it was no longer a matter of if Robyn was involved, but how deep her involvement really was. Let's take a moment and think. Let's imagine dedicating decades of our own lives to a family, only to leave with nothing but heartbreak. And then, When you finally stand up for what's yours, you realize your so-called sister wife has been calling the shots the entire time. Wouldn't you fight with every last bit of energy you had left? Christine's resolve was the emotional hub of this trial. Each testimony, each exhibit submitted into evidence piled on the strength of her battle. In the meantime, Robyn's tears were commonplace, her voice shaking as she swore she never meant to hurt anyone. Some believed her, others suspected it was an act. Tension was so palpable that even the gallery filled to capacity with reporters, family and rubberneckers alike, barely batted an eyelash. And just when everyone was sure they knew how this would end, the last word of the judge hung 8 minutes in, and you can sense it, can't you? The pressure, the suspicion, the hope for what the gavel will strike down. But keep in mind, this is merely the start. The hook of this story sets the stage, but the real unraveling, the shocking testimony and the judge's explosive ruling, that's still to come. By the time the final verdict is read, reputations will be destroyed, loyalties tested, and the sister wives' family changed forever. Because in this courtroom there's no family, no love, no unity, only the cold hard search for truth. And that's exactly where we're headed next. The gavel crashes against the wood, crisp and authoritative. The buzz in the courtroom quiets immediately. Every face shifts to the bench where the judge, unyielding and firm, takes his seat. His words slice the silence like steel against stone. This court will now receive testimony in the case of Christine Brown versus Robyn Brown. In that instant, the mood shifts. This is not another day in court. It is history in the making. Live. The stakes are etched across every face. Robyn's pale and drawn with terror, Christine's determined but weighted by decades of suffering, and Cody's impassive mask of stoicism that conceals more than it shows. When family turns into adversaries, the truth becomes the only weapon left standing. That's the reality we're stepping into now. And for the next 40 minutes, you're about to witness secrets exposed, alliances shattered, and a family torn apart under the harsh lights of the courtroom is filled with an agitated tension. The crowd, reporters writing rapidly, sister wives fans who've attended for the spectacle, and relatives who just can't stay away, leans forward as the first witness is summoned. Christine's lawyer, a poised but knife-sharp woman in a navy blue suit, stands. Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Christine Brown to the stand. Christine walks slowly, every step weighed with memories. Blonde hair is pulled back, eyes intent, though a flash of vulnerability lies hidden beneath her placid facade. She rests her hand on the Bible, takes the oath to tell the truth, and sits. Questioning starts softly. Mrs. Brown, can you tell the court why you are here today? Christine's voice shakes initially, but she gets stronger as she continues to speak. I invested years of my life in this family. I raised the children. I helped support Cody. I helped support my sister wives. And when I left, I didn't leave seeking revenge. I left seeking equity. What I found instead were financial statements that documented that I'd been left with nothing, yet others left with everything. Her words ring out across the room, and for the first time Robyn drops her gaze. And that's when the courtroom stopped being just about legal documents. It became about broken trust. 2 minutes in, let's stop here. What would you do if you found out the people you trusted most might have stashed money behind your back? The attorney probes deeper. Mrs. Brown, can you tell me what you found? Christine nods, her jaw clenched. I discovered transfers. Money shifted from joint accounts to private accounts. Accounts that Robyn controlled. I was never notified, never made aware. And when I questioned it, I was pushed aside. The gallery shifts, the words strike like blows, every syllable peeling away at Robyn's tenuously built facade. Robyn's attorney swiftly objects. Speculation, Your Honor. But the judge permits Christine to proceed. What I realized, Christine tells us, her eyes shining, was that the family harmony I'd believed in was a lie. And the one person who I thought wanted peace was the person who betrayed me most. Robyn's head shakes back and forth. She mutters to her lawyer, tears rising. Her lips shape the word, no. And in that instant, the courtroom is a theater where reality and performance merge. Who is the victim? Who is the villain? The cross-examination starts. Robyn's lawyer, lean and mean, attempts to depict Christine as resentful, her accusations overblown. Mrs. Brown, isn't it true that you quit the family on your own accord? That you voluntarily cut yourself off? Christine sets her shoulders. Yes, I left, but leaving my rights go away. It doesn't entitle someone else to take what I earn. The words cut through the air. Even those who had come to question Christine can sense the determination in her tone. And that's when it hit the room. This wasn't just divorce fallout. This was war. 4 minutes into session 1. Allow me to pose a question. Have you ever witnessed someone's serene facade crack when truth is too sharp? That is what this courtroom shall be seeing. Christine's testimony goes on for almost an hour. She describes instances where financial transparency was withheld, where Robyn told her everything was taken care of. She tells of sleepless nights wondering if she had been foolish, if the family she entrusted her heart to had regarded her as nothing more than a disposable part of the jigsaw puzzle. The courtroom feels like it's been through a storm by the time she exits. Then, the next witness is called. And this is where things take a darker turn. The clerk's voice rings out. The court calls Janelle Brown. Gasps ripple across the room. Janelle, once known for her even-tempered, level-headed nature, takes the stand. She isn't Christine. She isn't Robyn. She's Switzerland, or at least she used to be. Her presence is electric. If Christine represented the wounded fighter, Janelle represents the reluctant truth-teller. Christine's attorney asks, Mrs. Brown, can you tell us what you know about the family finances? Janelle breathes slowly. I know enough to say that things weren't always honest. I trusted Cody. I trusted Robyn. But I often felt like decisions were being made behind closed doors. And those decisions didn't always include me, or Christine. Robyn's face becomes stiff, her lawyer protesting immediately. But the judge permits it. And in that moment, Janelle's voice became the crack in the armor Robyn had tried to wear. 6 minutes in, here's where the tension ratchets up. Because now it's not Christine's word against Robyn. It's Janelle venturing into the flames too. As Janelle goes on, her words uncover a studious buildup of resentment. She talks about secret bank accounts, signatures she never had to give, family resources that always seem to flow toward Robyn's half of the equation. Christine sits silently, her hands tightly folded in her lap. For once she does not appear alone. The gallery murmurs. Photographers write more quickly. Even Cody fidgets in his seat, his facade breaking just a little, his mouth clamped shut, his eyes squinting, not at Christine but at Janelle. And the drama ceases to be one person. It is a cacophony of voices crying out against Robyn's protest. 8 minutes into session 1, this question weighs heavily in the air. When several sister wives share the same story, for how long can the truth be denied? But before the tide is turned, Robyn's lawyer retaliates. She calls her client to the stand. Robyn stands up slowly, her tear-stained face. Her voice trembles as she takes her oath. She glances at the judge, then the gallery, then finally agonized, at Christine. I didn't betray you, she whispers though the microphone picks up each syllable. I never wanted to hurt you. I only wanted to protect my family. I only wanted to ensure we lived. The words linger in the air, quivering and delicate. Some in the courtroom melt. Others detect manipulation. Robyn dabs at her tears, her fingers grasping the railing of the witness stand. If errors were committed, they were not malicious. They were done out of fear. Fear of losing all that we had worked for. The judge leans forward, his brow creasing. And that's where session 1 leaves us, with truth, lies, and tears clashing in an unruly storm no one saw coming. The courtroom is quiet, but not still. The soft rustle of papers, the soft thrum of the ceiling fan, the groan of wood benches, each tiny noise seems amplified by the gravity of what is to come. Robyn Brown stands at the witness stand, wiping at her eyes, her words shaking as she maintains she never had any intention of causing harm to anyone. But the cracks are appearing, and the room can tell. The judge clears his throat, his gaze narrowing. Mrs. Brown, simply answer the question. His voice is cold, almost paternal. A reminder here that emotion cannot wash away responsibility. And then Christine's lawyer blazes the bombshell. Your Honor, the plaintiff is prepared to offer Exhibit C, a string of bank statements and a tape-recorded telephone conversation between Mrs. Brown and Mr. Cody Brown. Gasps resonate in the gallery. The tension surges like electricity flowing through a wire. Suddenly Robyn's tears no longer seem like the end. They seem like the start of her falling apart. When tears can't wash away the truth, only evidence will. That's the new reality. This is not about emotion, it's about evidence. 2 minutes in, here's your question. If you heard a recording that disagreed with someone's every word, would you ever trust them again? The judge nods. The bailiff steps forward and hands him a small USB drive. The court clerk plugs it into the system, and in seconds the voice of voices fills the chamber. It's Robyn's voice, steady and unmistakable. Kody, if we don't move that money in a hurry, Christine's going to ask questions. She'll want her share. The courtroom stands still. The audio doesn't stop. Cody's voice tagging behind hers, low and tense. Just do it. We'll work out the details later. She doesn't need to know everything. The silence afterwards is chilling. Christine sits rigid, eyes fixed in front of her, lips clamped tightly shut, hands tremulous with the slightest. Robyn appears as though the ground has opened up beneath her. The lawyer allows the tape to run twice. Both times the words become heavier, the blow sharper, and at that instant, the illusion of Robyn as the innocent peacekeeper starts to disintegrate into ashes. 4 minutes into session 2, let me interrupt and ask, whose voice rings truer? The crying woman on the stand, or the cold, irrefutable words on tape? Robyn's attorney jumps to her defense. Your Honor, this tape is taken out of context. We want to hear the entire conversation. The judge looks up, an eyebrow raised. You will get your opportunity, counselor, but the words are what they are. Christine's lawyer stands forward, her voice even but with a knife's edge. Mrs. Brown, do you refuse to accept that this is your voice on tape? Robyn stammers, going white. I don't remember. I may have said things but not like that. Not with that purpose. The lawyer glares harder. So you acknowledge this is your voice. Robyn's silence speaks volume. She nods faintly. The gallery whispers once more, louder now. The atmosphere is alive with shock, betrayal, vindication. Christine looks at Janelle, and the other woman nods once, face set in a grim line. And that's when the case stopped being Christine versus Robyn. It became Christine versus a system of silent control. 6 minutes in, here's the hook you need to hold on to. If this is just the beginning of the evidence, imagine what else has been buried under years of. The next witness is called a former financial advisor who once worked briefly with the Brown family. A man in his late 50s, glasses perched on the edge of his nose, steps up to the stand. Under oath he swore, I complained years ago about how specific accounts were being handled. Some funds were being transferred into side accounts. When I asked questions, I was told, don't worry, Robyn takes care of those things. But when I persisted, my services were cut off. The courtroom murmurs to life again. His tone holds no personal animosity, but only professional definition. He speaks of missing signatures on unaccounted transfers, and a history of secrecy. Robyn squirms in her seat. Kody sits forward, jaw clenched, face flushed with rage, not with the witness, but with the crumbling walls of denial. And that's when Kody figured out, silence wouldn't save him anymore. Every word, every secret, was now in the dock. 8 minutes into session 2. Let's take a look in the mirror. How many times have we witnessed great families crumble, not due to enemies outside, but due to betrayals within? Christine's lawyer turns back to Robyn. Mrs. Brown, you've described yourself as caretaker, a desire for unity, but what these documents reveal is dishonest, and what this recording establishes intent. Why did you go about hiding this transaction? Robyn's tears fall again, but this time they don't have an effect. I was afraid, she cries, afraid that if Christine had what she was demanding, there wouldn't be enough left for the rest of us. I was trying to keep the family together. Christine interrupts from the gallery, her voice firm and level. You weren't holding us together, Robyn. You were pulling apart. The judge slams his gavel for order, but the words echo in the air, fresh and irrevocable. The gavel thumps once again, and the room shakes in intensity. The evidence has already shattered Robyn's master spun, but what follows is what everyone has been holding their breath for. Cody Brown himself taking center stage. The judge leans forward, his tone steady but unrelenting. The court will hear from Mr. Cody Brown now. And like that, the central figure in this broken family has nowhere to. He stands up from the chair slowly, his broad shoulders but heavy ones, his eyes flashing toward Robyn, then Christine, then to the ground. For years Cody has been in charge, the leader, the patriarch, the maker of decisions. But here in the courtroom, without power he appears smaller, exposed. What happens when the man who used to have all the power has to account for decisions he can't outrun? This is that moment. 2 minutes. Here's the first engagement. Suppose you are summoned as a witness. When the very things you attempted to hide are already ringing, would you struggle back? Or finally come? Cody testifies. The oath rings hollow as he promises to tell the truth. But everyone is aware the impact of his words will be anything but mundane. Christine's lawyer doesn't beat around the. Mr. Brown, were you aware of the money transfers from joint accounts into Robyn Brown's person? Cody readjusts his seat, clears his throat. I was aware of some decision, but I trusted Robyn. She managed those. The attorney, so you're stating that you authorized these transfers? Kody pauses. Not exactly. I let Robyn. I did not need to micromanage every aspect. Kristen's eyes narrow. The lawyer moves close. Mr. Brown, don't you know that by letting this happen you took away assets and rightfully yours? The silence is crushing. Kody glares at the floor, his jaw clenched. At last he grumbled. I didn't think it would come to. And then the courtroom gasped, not because Kody had lied, but because his half-truth sounded like a confession. 4 minutes, the engagement hook. Whose silence more audible? The one who won't respond, or the one who will finally confess that they knew all along? Robyn's attorney stands up. Objection. Mr. Brown is to stating something he never actually. The judge slams the gavel. Overruled. The witness will respond. Kristen's attorney presses. Mr. Brown, were you involved in these financial decisions from? Kody's face flushed. I wasn't. I was passive. I didn't want more brawls in family. Robyn said she'd deal with, and I trusted her. The words hang there, and all at once, it seems as though the truth has fallen out between the cracks. Passive, implicit. What does it matter when the outcome is? Christine her expression unreadable, but her hands gripped the table so tightly her knuckles. And in that moment, Kody's legacy as the family was shattered, not betrayed them with intent, but because he betrayed them with 6 minutes. Here's the question. Is it worse to be betrayed by someone's malice, or by their cowardice? The lawyer changes his tack. Mr. Brown, on this tape you are heard instructing Robyn to just. Was that not a command to conceal money? Kody hesitated. It was out of context. I was under stress. I just wanted the fight to stop. The recording is played again, filling the courtroom word. Just do it. We'll figure out the details. She doesn't need to know everything. The judge leans back, his lips tight. The jury silent, but their eyes sharp, takes it all in. Robyn shifts, tears flowing again. But this time they don't feel like it. They feel like desperation. And then, the court wasn't questioning Robyn's guilt. It was questioning Kody's involvement. 8 minutes in, let's suspend this idea for a moment. How much of a family's failure resides not in betrayal, but in the silence that allows betrayal to. And then the emotional bombshell. Christine herself stands up. Her lawyer nods for. She speaks directly to Kody. You instructed years to trust Robyn. You instructed me that she had our family's best. And now I discover, Kody, the money was spent. And you never spoke up. Do you have any idea what that did? Her voice cracks the final word. Her eyes brimming. The room. Janelle dabs at her eyes. Her own composure crumbling. Kody gulps. For the first time, his voice cracks. Nearly. Christine, I didn't want to hurt you. Christine shakes her head. You didn't want to put up with. That's, isn't it? You wanted peace with Robyn if it was at my expense. The words in mid-air like a knife. And in that moment, it wasn't so much fraud on trial. It was love, loyalty, and decades of sacrifice mantle the courtroom. 10 minutes. This is her hook. If betrayal isn't silence the salt that forever. The attorney takes command, directing Kody no question, one ring layer after layer of defense. By the time he is in the stand, his early commanding presence has been less than manfully rattled, his credibility shattered. The courtroom is raw, exposed, but the theatrics do not stop there. The tension goes straight to the roof, with the next witness, Meri Brown. Her name is called, and gasps spread once. The first wife, the one who already knew heartbreak, betrayal, and lonely years before this trial. She walks up to Anne slowly, her expression a mask of self-control. But her eyes betray decades, and that's when the trial shifted. Because if anyone could speak betrayal, it was Meri Brown. 12 minutes. Let's lock in. When someone in silence finally, their words cut in any. Meri raises, takes the oath, and sits down. Christine's lawyer starts slowly. Mrs. Brown, you've been longer than anyone else. What can you explain to court about how money? Meri, I always felt like I was left out of, especially divorcee Robyn. That was the end. That was when end started. For me, I signed documents that I did. I trusted them because I believed I had no other. Her voice cracks, but she's forward. Now sees document recording. I realize I was fooled, and not just Kristen was fooled. Janelle was fooled. We were all told to trust Robyn. And look where that trust. The gallery murmur. The reporters scribble fast, and Robyn visibly crumbles at the test. The judge watches carefully, but ignore the. And with that, the courtroom tide to flood. Because betrayal wasn't. It was everyone's. Session 3 ends here, with Robyn's tears, Christine's fury, Janelle's confirmation, Kody's collapse, and Meri's voice rising after years of silence. But just as the judge is about to close court for the day, Christine's lawyer states, Your Honor, tomorrow, we will bring forward evidence beyond bank statements and recordings, evidence that shows intentional fraud. The room gasps. Robyn almost passes out, gripping the railing for support. Cody hides his face in his hands. Christine sits upright than ever. The courtroom is quiet, but it's the quiet that is charged with energy. All eyes are on Christine's lawyer, as he makes his way toward the bench with a thick black binder. This isn't forms and paperwork. This is the binder. The one containing what he'd vowed the day before, proof other than bank statements, other than witness statements, proof that could tear apart what little of Robyn's case remains. What does it look like when the lies you've been living for years are no longer covered up with words, but uncovered by cold evidence? 2 minutes in, first engagement hook, sitting in that courtroom with you, would you glance away to shield yourself, or glare directly at the truth, however unbearable? The lawyer places the binder on the judge's bench and commences. Your Honor, members of the court, within this binder is a series of signed reports, notarized conveyances, and confidential correspondence that verify willful fraud perpetrated by Robyn Brown. These reports were subpoenaed from banking institutions and authenticated by third-party auditors. The air changes. Robyn's attorney springs up at once. Objection. Ambush. We were not provided with these papers in discovery. The judge scowls. Counsel, come here. Both sides murmur hotly with the judge, tension rising until he finally brings up his gavel. The court will permit it. Continue. Robyn goes white. She leans over and mouths to Cody, her voice shaking. They can't have those. But they do. 4 minutes in, here's the hook. When the truth comes knocking, do you hide behind excuses, or watch the walls crash down? The first document is projected onto the courtroom screen. It's a wire transfer, $150,000, transferred from a family trust account to a private LLC bearing Robyn's name. Date 2 weeks prior to Christine formally filing for separation. Christine's lawyer describes, this transaction was kept secret from the joint financial ledger. It was hidden in a private shell corporation that only Robyn could. Gasps start to spread through the courtroom. Christine remains immobile, her face an unreadable mask, but the fingers of one hand grasp the edge of the table like steel. Robyn's attorney jumps up from his seat. This isn't evidence of intent. Financial transactions occur constantly within big families. The lawyer clicks over to the next page. An email chain between Robyn and Cody. The subject line, funds before she leaves. The words block the screen. Move it quickly. She'll never know. Once it's done, it's ours. The room explodes. 6 minutes in, next hook. How would you feel reading those words, knowing they were written by the people you trusted most? Christine swivels her head towards Cody, her eyes blazing. Ours? You're talking about hers and yours. When I was still in this marriage, when I was still raising your kids. Cody collapses into his chair, unable to look at her. Robyn cries openly now, her tears spilling onto the table. But tears soften nothing. They only underscore the trap forming. The lawyer goes on, page by page, each one heavier than the previous credit card receipts for high-end shopping, while Christine was being told money is tight. LLC documents signed in Robyn's handwriting. Texts where Cody comforts Robyn. Don't worry, Christine won't fight it. She never does. The jury squirms in its seats, faces growing hard. Reporters' pens move more quickly, as if the ink itself can't keep pace with the tempest unfolding. And lo and behold, the case was no longer in suspicion. It was now a case of betrayal established in black and white. 8 minutes in retention booster. When paper trail cries louder than tears, you know the truth has a voice. The judge appears visibly shaken as he flips through duplicates. At last, he addresses Robyn. Mrs. Brown, do you not admit that these signatures and accounts are yours? Robyn's voice breaks. I signed them, but I didn't mean. It wasn't fraud. It was survival. Cody said we had to protect ourselves. The courtroom stalls. Those words, Cody said, hang in the air like an anvil. Christine's lawyer pounces. So you admit you and Mr. Brown deliberately concealed assets from Christine? Robyn cries, her voice rising to a high-pitched whine. I didn't do it on purpose. I just did what Cody said to do. He said Christine was leaving anyhow. He said she didn't deserve enough. Christine exclaims, pounding her hand on the table. Her temper finally snaps. I gave my life to this family. I gave up everything. And you both sat there and determined that I didn't deserve a penny? The courtroom erupts in cacophony. The judge bangs the gavel repeatedly, demanding order. But all the banging wood can't undo the fact. Robyn has just confessed her part. 10 minutes in, next hook, Isn't it true that sometimes the most shattering confessions aren't delivered by evidence, but by the guilty collapsing under the burden of their own deceit? Janelle, who had sat silently up to this point, leans in close to Christine and whispers loudly enough for the court to hear, "You were right. All these years you were right." The strength of that acceptance, Janelle, once Cody's most vocal protector, now aligning with Christine, drives a final nail into the coffin. Christine's lawyer glances straight at the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not mere numbers and signatures. This is betrayal. This is manipulation. This is stealing from someone who trusted too long and was discarded too fast." The jurors nod, their faces stern. Robyn hides her face in her hands. Cody sits motionless, like a statue, realizing at last that the empire he constructed on obedience and loyalty has blown away to dust. And in that quiet, Christine experiences something she hasn't in years: vindication. 12 minutes in, retention booster. When truth finally pierces through, it doesn't whisper, it roars. The judge adjourns, but the theatrics spill over into the corridors. Cameras converge, reporters bellow questions, and murmurs circulate through the throngs. Fraud confirmed, Christine finally wins. Robyn implicated. Christine sits serenely inside, as if in shock. The battle she has waged for years has at last spilled someone else's blood, not hers, but theirs. Robyn sways in her chair, whispering to Cody, "What do we do now? What do we do?" Cody doesn't respond. For the first time, he has no script, no spin, no authority. He simply looks at the floor, hands slack in his lap. The women who once stood behind him, Christine, Janelle, Meri, are now standing taller, not because they weren't bruised, but because they finally stopped bowing. The session concludes with the judge declaring, "Tomorrow closing arguments will begin. Prepare your final statements." And the cliffhanger falls. Christine's lawyer leans into his mic, his voice cut like steel. "Your Honor, prior to closings, we will present one more evidentiary item. An item that will leave no question of willful fraud and Cody Brown's participation." The courtroom gasps. Journalists dash for their phones. Robyn grips Cody's arm, her fingers digging in, as though grasping to keep hold of the last remnant of safety. Cody doesn't budge. He doesn't even glance at her. He's staring at Christine. And that's where session 4 leaves off, teasing with the last crushing revelation that could knock not only Robyn off, but Cody as well. The air is thick, the courthouse itself seeming to hold its breath. The back is lined with reporters, cameras at the ready, pens quivering with excitement. Families grasp each other's hands. On one side sits Christine, tense but serene, her eyes fixed on the bench. On the other, Robyn has her lips moving in prayer, forehead knitted in desperation, while Cody sits beside her, stone-faced, and then the judge arrives. The gavel rings once, as hard as thunder. Today the truth will at last be resolved. Today there is no more hiding. 2 minutes in, first hook, would you pray for mercy, or prepare yourself for justice? The judge slowly starts, reading from his papers. Throughout this trial, we've had testimony, we've had documentation reviewed, we've had recordings heard. And now, it is time for this court to make its decision. He speaks straight to Robyn. "Mrs. Brown, the evidence is compelling. Financial documents, signed transfers, and your own sworn testimony affirm that you knowingly transferred funds to hide them from Mrs. Christine Brown." The courtroom is quiet. Even the rustling of papers has ceased. The judge goes on. "This court finds you liable for fraud." Gasps run through the gallery. Robyn leans forward, sobbing into her hands. Cody clings to the edge of the table, his knuckles white, but his face impassive. The judge's voice grows incisive. "You are commanded to pay restitution in the amount of $750,000 to Christine Brown." Christine's breath whistles out, slow and steady. Her lips quiver, but her eyes shine with something unprecedented. Vindication. 4 minutes in, hook, justice doesn't always arrive on the back of victory. Sometimes it arrives with loss, and the guilty must bear the burden of their own action. Robyn's lawyer jumps up. "Your Honor, we're going to appeal. This verdict is unjust." But the judge holds up his hand. "Sit down, counselor. This is my final ruling. Appeals will not suppress the evidence. Order in this court must be obeyed." The words resound like a hammer banging repeatedly. "Final, final." Christine's lawyer stands firm, her voice unshaken. "In my client's name, we express our gratitude to the court for doing justice today. For far too long, Christine's faith was betrayed, her devotion ignored. Today, she is vindicated. The jury starts to clear out of the room, some of them looking at Christine with subtle nods of affirmation, others shying away from Robyn's tear-stained face. And then something unlooks happens. 6 minutes in, Hook, what is more shocking than a verdict? The moments immediately following, when masks at last drop off. Christine looks at Robyn. For an instant, the world slows. Their eyes meet, one woman shattered, the other at last complete. Christine's voice, low though it is, slices through the din. I never wanted this. I just wanted the truth. Robyn's head shakes wildly, sobbing. You've ruined my family, Christine. You've ruined everything. But Christine doesn't waver. No, Robyn. You destroyed it when you lied. Cody squirms in his seat, his jaw tightening. For the first time, he seems tiny small. His kingdom of loyalty, secrecy, and domination has fallen around him, and he has no one to shut up. Because ultimately betrayal isn't just financially costly, it's emotionally expensive. And it costs the people who used to believe in you. 8 minutes in, retention booster. When power escapes us, what we are left with is character. And today, only one side departed with theirs intact. Outside the courthouse, the pandemonium is instantaneous. Reporters converge, cameras flash, microphones advance. Christine, what do you think of the verdict? Robyn, are you going to pay the $750,000? Cody, next in line. Christine responds thoughtfully. This was not about revenge. This was about accountability. And today, accountability prevailed. Janelle shows up beside her, wrapping an arm around Christine's shoulders. You stood up, and you did not back down. That is more important than any number. Meanwhile, Robyn and Cody are whisked out the back door, their faces white, their eyes darting away from the crowd of reporters. But the cameras manage to grab enough. The tears, the silence, the shame. For the public, it is more than a court case. It's the fall of an image built up over years. 10 minutes in, Hook, sometimes the tale doesn't conclude with the gavel. Sometimes, that's only where the real story actually starts. Christine comes home that night to accolades from her children and good friends. They hug her, taking some of the burden she bore for so many years. Yet even in triumph, she feels the sting of years lost, trust shattered, wounds that never will. Robyn, on the other hand, is in her living room, blinds drawn, holding on to her phone. Now what, Cody? She breathes. But Cody is silent. He looks at the wall, his face and eyes blank, as if the battle has sapped all the words out of him. Meri stands in the background, not cheering nor consoling. She simply speaks softly to herself. Perhaps now, he will finally see. And the world continues to turn. The case is closed, the money ordered, but the scars are indelible. 12 minutes in, retention booster. Verdicts will close cases, but they won't close wounds. Those linger, long after the signatures are dry. The episode ends not with applause, but with questions. Will Robyn ever repay Christine in full? Will Cody ever get his legal comeuppance? Will the family ever heal from the treachery exposed before the world? And perhaps the most difficult question of all, was justice sufficient? Because sometimes, the gavel does not heal. It merely reveals what was already broken. The narrator's voice trails away with the last words. In court, Robyn lost her fortune. But in the hearts of those she betrayed, she lost something much more valuable. And that is a debt no verdict can pay. The lights of the courthouse dim with memory, but the tempest is only just starting. Christine might have emerged a victor in the law courts, but Robyn and Cody are wading into something much more malevolent, public opinion. Newspapers splash the decision across all screens. Judge orders Robyn Brown to pay $750,000 in fraud case. Headlines shriek betrayal. Comment sections implode with outrage. Neighbors gossip, fans argue. Strangers take sides. The Brown family name, once shrouded in a tale of unorthodox love, now carries the imprint of scandal. And in private, the cracks spread. A verdict can close a case, but it can't close the war within a family. That's what this chapter is all about. 2 minutes in, first hook. If your worst secrets were played out on television for the world to see, would you fight harder to protect yourself? Or would you break down under the shame? At Robyn's place, it is claustrophobic. The blinds are closed, the phone keeps buzzing, and Robyn is huddled on the couch with puffy eyes. Each ring is an assault, each notification, a reminder of what she's lost. Kody, I can't do this, she moans, rubbing her head. I can't go out. I can't see anyone. Kody stalks the living room, like an animal in a cage. His fury sees, but for once it isn't at Christine, it's at the world, at the reporters, the judge, the gossip, and in the deepest recesses of his heart, perhaps even himself. This family was going to be untouchable, he grumbles. We were going to prove them all we could overcome. And now they're all laughing at us. Robyn's tears stream more forcefully. It's not money, Kody. It's our name, our children. What are our children going to think when they grow up and Google this, when they read what we did? But Kody doesn't respond. He continues to pace. 4 minutes in. Hook. Isn't it true that sometimes the loudest punishment isn't from a judge, but the silence of those around you? Meanwhile, downtown, Christine sits with Janelle and Meri. For years there is laughter in the room. It's not crazy or taunting, but warm, healing laughter. The kind that happens when heavy chains are finally shattered. Janelle lifts a glass of iced tea to Christine, for standing up, for finally receiving the justice you deserved. Christine smiles, but her eyes retain the burden of everything she has lived through. It's not just for me. It's for every time one of us was told to be quiet. For every time we were told our feelings didn't count. This was a voice for all of us. Meri slowly nods, nearly shyly. You were strong, Christine. Stronger than I was. I lingered too long. I let him dictate too long. Christine's hand goes out, clasping Meri's. We all did. But the point is, we don't have to anymore. The three women sit together, united not by the man who once required their devotion, but by the liberty they fought from his shadow. And in that living room, the narrative ceased to be one of polygamy, or deception, or celebrity. It came to be one of survival and sisterhood reimagined. 6 minutes in. Hook. How many times do we come too late to understand that the individuals standing with us were always better friends than those we struggled to appease? Not everyone interprets it that way though. Back at Robyn's, Kody blows up. This is war, Robyn. Christine believes she's won, but she hasn't seen the last of me. They've turned them all against us. The media, the fans, even the kids are beginning to doubt. And you? He breaks off, his chest rising and falling. Robyn glares at him with puffy eyes. Me? What am I supposed to do, Kody? You instructed me. You said move the money. You said keep us safe. And now I'm the one who's being accused of a crime, while you're sitting here acting like you had no idea? Her voice breaks, but it's not only sadness, it's rage. For an instant, Kody is speechless. He eyes her, actually sees her, and recognizes not the faithful partner he used to rely on, but a woman who has been pulled down by his choices. And perhaps, for the first time, he feels the guilt. 8 minutes in. Retention booster. When loyalty becomes blame, even the strongest alliances fall under their own gravity. In the ensuing days, the backlash takes hold like wildfire. TLC issues a statement. We are watching the situation closely and will consider the future of the show. Sponsors drop out. Fan sites erupt with hashtags such as #justice for Christine and #Robyn exposed. The kids sense it as well. Robyn's older kids skip school, fearful of wagging tongues and pointed fingers. Christine's children stand by their mother, enthusiastically tagging photos with her online. Even the church community of the Brown family, a bulwark of silent support, distances itself. This sort of dishonesty does not reflect well on all of us, one elder says to a reporter. And Kody? He rants on social media, blaming the media, the courts, even his wives. But the more he speaks, the more alone he is. Christine remains silent, however, dignified, allowing the truth and the verdict to be heard more loudly than any status update ever could. 10 minutes in. Hook. Rage is not always the loudest thing, and neither is Christine's silence. Late one night, Meri goes to visit Christine once again. The two sit on the porch, watching the sun set. For the first time in years, there's peace between them. You know, Meri speaks quietly. I hated you. I believed you were trying to steal him away from me. But now I understand. You were merely trying to save yourself, just as I was. Christine nods, her gaze far away. We were all trying to survive him. And in the end, that's what almost destroyed us. But now, Perhaps it's what can reunite us. The two women remain in silence, their hearts weighed down but with hope. Because sometimes, healing doesn't come from the courtroom. It comes from the quiet moments when the wounds finally start to close. 12 minutes in, retention booster, justice can punish the guilty, but only love and forgiveness can rebuild the broken. But just as Christine starts to sense an imperfect peace, word comes Kody has been subpoenaed. The state is looking into whether he too had a direct hand in the illegal transfers. Christine learns it on the radio, her breath catching in her throat. Janelle calls her phone seconds later. Did you hear? It's happening, Christine. They're finally going after him. Christine doesn't react immediately. Her heart is pounding, her mind racing. Justice for Robyn was one thing. But Kody, the man who defined their lives for so many years, now to be judged, that's something different. And with the sun setting on that day, Christine mutters to herself, it's not over, not yet. The gavel had come down on Robyn's case. The courtroom was cleared. The decision was etched in stone. But deep in the still halls of the legal system, another file crept across another desk. This one had a different name typed at the top. And just like that, the father who made his whole life about control was going to lose the one thing he could not afford, his freedom. Imagine for a moment that you've spent decades building an image of yourself as the leader, the protector, the boss. Now imagine waking up to find that the very laws you thought you could outmaneuver are the ones ready to bring you down. That's exactly where Cody Brown found himself. Because while Robyn might have caught the initial whiff in court, rumors were building louder. She didn't act alone. Prosecutors were eager to know who called the shots, who manipulated the flow of funds, who made financial magic tricks a family legacy. And all the roads, it seemed, led back to Kody. And here's the irony. Christine, Janelle, and Meri weren't sitting idly by this time. They were willing to speak. If you thought Christine's case was over, think again. The real trial had just begun. 4 minutes in, hook when the truth begins to spill. It doesn't arrive in whispers. It comes in waves. The first subpoena came crashing onto Kody's doorstep, like a bombshell. He tore it open, shaking in his hands. Robyn stood behind him, as white as a ghost. They can't do this, Kody growled. They already tested you. They already had their trial. This is double jeopardy or something. Robyn shook her head. No, Kody. This is you. The words hurt more than he anticipated. This is you. For years Robyn had been his shield, his echo, his unwavering defender. But now, even she couldn't deny the obvious. If there was money moved, if accounts were manipulated, if paperwork was altered, it was Kody's signature, Kody's idea, Kody's hand guiding the wheel. And the investigators knew it. 6 minutes in, retention booster, when denial becomes your only defense, the truth has already cornered you. In secret, prosecutors built their case. Christine's testimony had already opened the vault. Bank statements revealed money routed into shell accounts. Property transactions were traced back to Robyn, but emails suggested Kody might have a role to play. One stood out. An email from Kody to Robyn, brief but incriminating, move it now before they start asking questions. That one sentence was at the heart of the state's case. Christine, in a second interview, did not blink. Kody always planned. Robyn executed. But Kody was the puppet master. We all knew it. Meri, the most loyal of them all, finally broke her silence. I remained quiet for too long. But I can no longer remain so. He wasn't saving us. He was saving himself. Even Janelle, who is known to be level-headed, stepped forward. Kody thought he was smarter than the system, but he wasn't. He thought family loyalty would silence us, but it won't. 8 minutes in, hook, isn't it rich, that the voices he silenced for years are now the same voices that could bring him down. The media spectacle picked up again. Cameras trailed Kody wherever he went. Reporters called out questions as he stormed in and out of his vehicle. On social media, fans argued, was this justice or revenge? Back home, Kody unraveled. He ranted in overnight live streams, accusing Christine, accusing the government, even the network TLC. But the louder he yelled, the crazier he sounded. Robyn begged him to stop. Kody, please. You're making it worse. Every time you go online, they use it against you. But Kody wouldn't listen. His voice cracked with rage. They want to destroy me? Fine. I'll go down swinging. Robyn's tears returned. But this time they weren't just for herself. They were for the man unraveling before her eyes. 10 minutes in, Retention booster. Sometimes the biggest crash doesn't occur in a courtroom, it occurs in your very own living room. New witnesses came forward as the investigation intensified. Former business partners, church officials, even neighbors who'd observed strange activity. One former partner remembered a fiery argument. Cody told me in so many words, the system's rigged against us, so we have to outsmart it. I walked away after that. I knew where it was going. Another source uncovered that Robyn wasn't alone in shuffling funds. Cody had sent money into a private trust in someone else's name. The walls were closing in. Christine's heart was conflicted. Part of her believed that justice had been long overdue. Another part was, this was the father of her children. The man her kids still referred to as dad. A quiet moment with Janelle found Christine asking, what if he gets sent to prison? What does that do to them? Janelle responded with a straightforward, weighty statement. What did staying with him already do to them? 12 minutes in, hook, justice isn't about punishing the guilty. It's about the price paid by the left behind. The indictment was quick to follow. Cody Brown was officially charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, financial malfeasance, and obstruction. He appeared in court, his hair rumpled, his eyes blazing. For once, the self-assured, chest-thumping patriarch seemed small. The judge read the charges aloud. They struck like a hammer. Robyn huddled in the back, holding a tissue, struggling to catch her breath. Christine, Janelle, and Meri didn't show up, but their absence was deafening. Cody pleaded not guilty, but the proof was mounting high, and everyone in that room understood it. 14 minutes in. Retention booster. When pride is your sole armory, every blow you land slashes deeper into yourself. Outside the courthouse, journalists mobbed. One called out, Cody, do you regret your decisions? Cody paused for a second, his teeth gritted. And while he did not reply, his silence spoke volume. That evening, Christine alone sat on her porch. She looked up at the stars, remembering the years that she had spent believing in a man who had constructed their life based on falsehoods. And in that instant, she understood something. The trial wasn't about Cody. It was about her, Janelle, Meri, and even Robyn. It was about ending a pattern that had entangled them for decades. The court of law may render judgment, but healing, that was something only they could decide. Christine drifted away inside, her phone vibrating. A message appeared on the screen. It wasn't from Janelle, not from Meri, not even from Robyn. It was from one of her children. Mom, they're saying Dad might take a plea deal. Christine froze, because if Cody was considering a plea, it meant secrets far darker than anyone had yet revealed, and the next chapter would uncover just how deep those secrets went. The courtroom lights flashed as though the walls themselves were privy to something about to shatter. The noise outside was deafening. Reporters, fans, critics, all anticipating the ultimate word. But this was no longer about headlines. This was about whether Cody Brown, the man who once preached family values, would sacrifice that legacy for a desperate bargain. What would you do if the only hope to keep yourself safe was to reveal all your secrets you ever kept? That's the dilemma that confronts Cody Brown. The rumors of a plea agreement weren't hearsay any longer. They were confirmation that Cody was backed into a corner. And cornered men do not behave rationally. They lash, they negotiate, they betray. Now the question wasn't whether Cody would fall, but how many others he'd take with him when he did. Tonight we discover how far Cody Brown will go to save himself. 4 minutes in. Hook. At times survival involves ruining everything you once professed to adore. Hearing morning, Robyn sat in quiet next to Cody. Her hands shook as she attempted to take his, but he brusquely shook her off. I don't want comfort, he bristled. I want loyalty. Robyn's eyes brimmed with tears. I've given you everything, Cody. What else can I give? His response was frigid. The truth. All of it. Even if it means you take the fall again. For the first time, Robyn witnessed it. This wasn't partnership. This was sacrifice. And she was the lamb. 6 minutes in. Retention booster. When the mask finally slides, sometimes the person you loved was never truly there. Within the courtroom, Christine sat with Meri and Janelle. None of them had addressed Cody directly, yet their presence conveyed a clear message. They weren't there to safeguard him anymore. The judge turned to the courtroom. Mr. Brown, are you ready to proceed with a plea deal? The words drained the room of air. Cameras cut in. The gallery waited with bated breath. Cody rose, fidgeting uncomfortably. His attorney whispered furiously in his ear. Kody finally spoke. His voice broke, not with modesty, but with rage. I'm willing to negotiate, but only if the whole truth is told. The courtroom was shaken, because with that one sentence there were more secrets, more lies, more harm than anyone could have imagined. 8 minutes in, hook. What happens when a confession doesn't bring closure, but chaos? Kody started to tell things, how money was transferred, how documents were signed, how decisions were reached. He blamed Robyn repeatedly, depicting her as the implementer of his schemes. Robyn dissolved into tears. That's not true. You told me what to do, Kody. You made me think it was for the family. Christine couldn't help but look away, but she gritted her teeth and watched. Each sentence Kody uttered turned the knife deeper, not only in Robyn, but in the whole family. For Kody wasn't only confessing, he was revising history to cover himself. And then came the big one. Kody conceded that years ago, funds had been channeled not only into Robyn's accounts, but into accounts reserved for future projects that never materialized. The figure? More than $1.5 million. 10 minutes in. Retention booster. The deeper the truth digs, the more it reveals bones no one wanted brought to the surface. Gasps filled the courtroom. Christine covered her face. Janelle shook her head in disbelief. Even Meri, who had estranged herself for years, whispered, "My God." The judge brought down the gavel. Order, order in the court. Robyn wept openly now, repeating, he promised it was safe. But Kody wasn't through. He directed his anger at Christine. You wanted this, didn't you? You wanted to kill me. You wanted me here. Congratulations, you've won. Christine, her voice firm, said, "No, Kody, you did this to yourself." The silence that followed was choking. 12 minutes in. Hook. Sometimes the sound heard most loudly in a courtroom isn't the gavel. It's the silence after truth descends. The judge adjourned for deliberation on whether to accept the plea from Kody. Reporters bolted out, desperate to spin the yarn. Christine, Janelle, and Meri sat together. For once they weren't ex-wives, they were survivors of the same storm. Robyn sat alone, quivering. She glared at Kody, but his eyes were on the judge's bench. No apology, no regret, only calculation. Christine leaned in close to Janelle and whispered, "If he pleads guilty, it's done. But if he doesn't," Janelle finished the sentence, "then it's just the beginning." 14 minutes in. Retention booster. Endings aren't always about closure. Sometimes, they're about the scars we take with us. When court came back, everyone was watching Kody. His attorney rose. "Your Honor, my client has decided." The hesitation hung like an eternity. Robyn cried harder. Christine clutched her chair. Janelle mouthed a prayer, not to accept the plea. Gasp after gasp echoed through the courtroom. The trial wasn't over. It was just amplified. The judge, clearly exasperated, declared, "Then this court will set the stage for full trial proceedings. Mr. Brown, you are remanded in tighter condition till then." Kody smirked, literally smirked, as though he had gained something. But what he actually gained was more time under a microscope, more agony for the family, more devastation. With the gavel dropped, Christine's phone beeped once more. Another text. This one wasn't from her children. It was anonymous. It was signed, "If you think you know all of Kody's secrets, you don't. Ask about the tapes." Christine's hands trembled. Because if there were tapes, recordings of conversations, proof buried away, this trial could blow up into something much darker than anyone anticipated. And that's where the story has to leave us. With a family broken, a patriarch pinched, and rumors of tapes that might upend everything. Now I'd like to get your opinion. Do you believe Kody would actually throw Robyn under the bus to save himself? Or is there some other plot twist lurking in those recordings? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because this argument's far from done.